Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a way of thinking that might just completely change how you see, well, everything. It's called systems thinking, and it's all about looking past the obvious stuff to see the hidden connections and patterns that really run the show.
You know that old story about the blind men and the elephant? One guy touches the leg and swears it's a tree trunk. Another grabs the tusk and says, nope, it's a spear. A third feels the tail and is convinced it's a rope. The thing is, none of them are exactly wrong, but they're all missing the big picture. And honestly, that's a perfect metaphor for how we usually try to solve problems.
And that leads to this huge question, one I'm sure we've all wrestled with. Why do our best efforts, our most well-intentioned plans, so often blow up in our faces? We pour money and energy into fixing things, and somehow the problems either stick around or we create brand new ones. The answer might not be in what we're doing, but in how we're thinking.
So, just to shake things up a bit, let's look at a couple of surprising ideas that come out of this way of thinking. First up, get this, political leaders don't actually cause recessions or economic booms. Those big swings are baked right into the structure of the economy itself. The politicians might get the credit or the blame, but they're mostly just along for the ride.
And here's another one that really makes you think. Drug addiction isn't just a personal failure of willpower. It's often the outcome of a whole system of things. Social pressures, economic hardship, biology, that creates a powerful trap. The problem isn't just the person, it's the entire system they're caught inside. All right, so to really get our heads around all this, here's our game plan. We're going to talk about why we usually only see pieces of the puzzle, then we'll put on our system lens. After that, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of how systems work, look at some common traps we all fall into, and finally, the best part, talk about how we can actually change things.
So all that confusion, blaming a president for a recession or a single person for their addiction, it comes from how we're taught to see the world. We break things down into tiny pieces to figure them out. And don't get me wrong, that's super useful for a lot of stuff, but it's only half the story. It's like taking a watch apart and studying every single gear, but never understanding how they all work together to tell time.
So, what's the other half of the story? It's what the brilliant author Donella Meadows called the system lens. It's this whole other way of seeing that lets us finally see the entire elephant. Instead of just focusing on the individual parts, we start paying attention to how they're all connected, the relationships, the web of influences, and the patterns that show up over time. Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of this. How do these systems actually work? It's pretty wild, but it turns out that everything from a rainforest to the stock market is built from just a few really simple building blocks.
So first off, what even is a system? Well, it's just a bunch of parts that are connected in a way that achieves something. Think about a football team. You've got the elements, the players, the coaches, the ball. You've got the interconnections, the rules of the game, the plays they run, how they communicate, and you've got the purpose, to score points and win. Now, if you change the players, you still have a team, but if you change the rules or the purpose, you've got a totally different game.
Now, at the very core of every single system are two super simple ideas: stocks and flows. A stock is just a pile of something. It could be water in a bathtub, money in your bank account, or trees in a forest. It's a quantity you can measure. And a flow? That's just the rate that the stock is changing. It's the water pouring in from the faucet or draining out. It's the deposits and withdrawals from your account. Seriously, if you can start to see the world as stocks and flows, you're already halfway there. And what actually drives those flows? Something called feedback loops. These are the engines that make systems behave the way they do, and they really only come in two main flavors: balancing loops, which try to keep things stable, and reinforcing loops, which cause things to grow or collapse like crazy. Pretty much everything happening in the world is some combination of these two loops. Let's start with the balancing loop. The perfect example is the thermostat in your house. You set a goal, right? Say, 70 degrees. If the room gets colder, the loop kicks in, turns on the heat, and brings the temperature back up. If it gets too hot, it shuts the heat off. It's always trying to hit that target, to stabilize things, to correct any deviations.
And then you've got the other kind, the reinforcing loop. This one is all about amplification. It's a snowball effect. Think about rabbits. A couple of rabbits have a few more rabbits. Those rabbits grow up and have a whole bunch more rabbits. The more you have, the faster you get more. It's exponential growth. This is also how interest works on your savings. And, unfortunately, how a tiny rumor can spread and become a huge scandal.
Okay, now this is where things get really, really fascinating. When you start combining these simple building blocks, stocks, flows, and loops, in certain ways, you get these classic problems, these traps where really smart, well-meaning people end up creating results that absolutely nobody wants.
Let's look at one of the most famous traps of all, something I guarantee you've seen: the tragedy of the commons. This is what happens when you have a shared resource. It could be a grazing pasture, clean air, fish in the ocean, and everyone, acting perfectly rationally for themselves, ends up destroying it for everyone. It's not because they're bad people. It's because the system is set up to fail.
I mean, look at the logic here. It makes perfect sense from one person's point of view. Okay, step 1, I'll add one more cow to the field. Step 2, I get all the profit from that cow. Awesome. Step 3, the tiny bit of extra grass it eats? That cost is shared by everybody. So what's the rational conclusion? Step 4, add another cow, and another. Every single person follows that same flawless logic. And pretty soon, there's no grass left for anyone.
So how do you get out of a trap like that? Well, the key is you have to restore the missing feedback loop. You have to make people feel the consequences of their actions. You can do that by educating everyone about what's happening. You could privatize the resource, so each herdsman has their own plot and has to deal with their own overgrazing, or you can regulate it. It's what Garrett Hardin called mutual coercion, mutually agreed upon. Think about parking meters. Nobody loves them, but we all agree to them because they stop a few people from hogging all the spots all day.
And this all leads us to the most powerful, and honestly, the most hopeful part of thinking in systems. Once you understand the structure, you can start to find the leverage points, those specific places in a system where one small push can create a huge, lasting change.
But here's the secret, and it's a big one. The most powerful leverage points are almost never the ones we think they are. We spend all our time tweaking the small stuff, adjusting a tax rate here, changing a budget there. That's like trying to steer a ship by polishing the brass. The real power to change things lies somewhere much, much deeper.
The single most powerful way to change a system is to change its paradigm. A paradigm is just the collection of shared beliefs and assumptions about how the world works, the stuff we don't even think to question. It's the mindset that the system's goals and rules grow out of. Think about the moment we shifted from believing the Earth was the center of everything to knowing it revolves around the sun. That one change in paradigm transforms science, society, everything. If you can change a fundamental belief, like the idea that endless economic growth is always good, you can change the entire system from the inside out.
But in the end, systems thinking isn't about becoming some kind of puppet master who can control the world. It's really about humility. It's about seeing the incredible complexity all around us, understanding our small part in it, and learning how to move with a bit more wisdom and grace. It's about letting go of that need to control everything and, as Donella Meadows so perfectly put it, learning to just dance with the system.